Thank you, Lara. Official figures show that 1 in 3 women have been the victim of physical or sexual violence since the age of 15 by someone known to them.
1 in 4 has been emotionally abused by a partner, and 1 woman dies almost every week at the hands of a current or a former partner. A new government-backed campaign aims to help everyone recognise disrespect. Take a look.
Come on then. What happened?
Got detention just for flicking up a girl's skirt.
What? That's it.
Doesn't she know that's just boys being boys?
Yeah, I mean, I've already accepted that as I grow up, I'll probably be harassed and even abused.
Sorry. It's not what I meant.
Such a great ad. And the Minister for Families and Social Services, Paul Fletcher, joins us now from Canberra. Minister, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael.
Violence, sadly, as you well know, starts with disrespect. It starts with kids being instilled with the wrong values, the wrong attitude. How do we change that?
Well, this Stop It at the Start campaign is effectively designed to try and change community attitudes. It's a preventative campaign of the same kind of public health campaign that we've seen in previous decades in relation to things like binge drinking or drink driving. And it's based in research which shows a strong linkage between a lack of respect for women and the shocking rates of violence against women that we see. Some of the figures that you mentioned at the start, or another very troubling figure is that every day, according to the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare, 8 women are hospitalised as a result of assault from a current or former spouse or partner. And so the research that this campaign is based on shows this linkage between a lack of respect for women and violence against women. And some of the survey findings are quite striking. One that struck me was that 1 in 4 young people didn't see a problem with boys or young men harassing or making fun of young girls in public. And that was one of a number of results in an attitudinal survey which showed that we do still have some work to do. And so this campaign, this Stop It at the Start campaign, which is supported by the Australian Government and by state and territory governments, it's part of the National Action Plan for Reducing Violence Against Women and Their Children. Phase 2 commenced earlier this month, and it builds on Phase 1, which ran a couple of years ago.
So it's aimed, I'm guessing, particularly at parents, Minister?
Well, it's aimed at adults. The premise of the campaign is that in the situations like the ad that you've just run, adults say things, parents, teachers, coaches, which have a significant influence on children and young people around us without us necessarily realising it, and without us having any intention at all to convey a message of disrespect against women. So it's really encouraging adults to think about the messages that we may be conveying to children and young people where we're inadvertently perhaps suggesting disrespect against women, asking us to think about that. And the reason for doing that is because there is a clear link between attitudes of a lack of respect to women and violence. And it's important that we are demonstrating respect towards women, particularly in situations where as adults we're saying things that may influence children and young people around us.
Those figures we mentioned and you referred to about the incidence of violence and deaths are just truly horrible. People who work in domestic violence, in the domestic violence area, in women's refuges and the like, say there's been an upsurge in domestic violence recently. What is driving that?
Well, look, there are many views from the experts. What is important is that we have a clear focus on this issue. So there is a national action plan to reduce violence against women and their children. In 2015, we announced a women's safety package with $100 million. In 2016, we announced the 3rd action plan under this national plan. So the national plan commenced in 2010, the 3rd action plan commenced in 2016 with a further $100 million of funding. Recently, Minister for Women Kelly O'Dwyer and I were at the Council of Australian Governments Summit in Adelaide on reducing violence against women and children. Many experts, leaders of community groups, people working in refuges, working on the front line, public policy experts and so on, came together to review the statistics, which are very troubling, and to work through some of the initiatives that could be considered for inclusion in the next stage of this national plan. And certainly this $30 million Stop It at the Start campaign is an important community campaign designed to change attitudes and over time, therefore, have an impact on reducing violence against women.
We all really hope this campaign works. Now, while I've got you, Minister, still wearing your Minister for Families cap, what's it going to take to get those kids off Nauru?
You've heard the Prime Minister and indeed the Minister for Immigration in question time yesterday, for example, make the point that there's extensive medical care provided on Nauru, some 60 medical professionals available, that where necessary for treatment reasons, children and others are moved from Nauru. And of course, the key point to make is that the reason that there are children on Nauru, people on Nauru, is because the previous Labor government lost control of our borders, 50,000 unauthorised arrivals and tragically some 1,200 deaths at sea. What we've been focused on is steadily reducing the number of children and adults on Nauru and Manus. Some 400 already have been moved, including through our agreement with the United States, and we'll continue to work through that systematically and methodically.
Yeah, we're just about out of time, Minister. Just two things quickly, if I can just pick you up there. Clearly, the medical situation on Nauru isn't good enough, which is why kids are being brought to Australia, including the latest batch just yesterday. And the more direct question, don't you think now, and I hear what you're saying about border protection, but don't you think now there is a change in community sentiment that is directed at a bipartisan agreement, not just the government, but the opposition too, aimed at getting those kids off Nauru?
What we're focused on is maintaining strong border protection and also working through systematically resolving the issue that the previous Labor government left us to solve. We are working through that systematically and will continue to do so.
OK, Paul Fletcher in Canberra, thank you so much for joining us on News Breakfast.